going on, D? What's going on, everybody? Is our sound working? I don't know.
I don't know. I can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear me, but I want they can hear me.
Can you hear that in the background?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm not sharing anything, but I just want to make sure you can hear.
I don't know.
It was a great show.
Hey,
Tech Stocks and Jobs. You didn't even realize it was the 90th episode.
I did last night. I said 90 and 60, but I forgot to mention it today.
Yeah,
I was trying to get to 100 before the end of the year, but
yeah, I know.
by doing one every day.
I know. How's that been working out for you?
Well, we could do one tomorrow. Mm. Yeah,
That
tomorrow.
wasn't my question.
We didn't start. We didn't make the plan for it. I got content over content. I'm just saying. Advertising in the background from Nordstrom's. Move that out of the way.
What was that?
Nordstrom's in the background. Free advertisement. How was your
There's
week?
no advertisement. There's no advertisement. We don't even want to get copyright infringement on that. There wasn't no advertisement. We removed that.
I'm just saying free advertisement with it sitting in the back. It's not no that we advertising. I'm just saying.
But their restaurant is delicious.
I feel like that's what I should have for dinner.
Is that what you feel like?
Hmm.
Is that what you feel like you should have for dinner in your soul? That means you might be going outside. What is, what is all that? You don't need to go
It's still
outside.
my birthday. Still my birthday month.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
You can't.
I'm not. I'm not
You
going to
can't.
disagree with that.
You
I'm
cannot.
not. I'm not. I'm not going to disagree. It's still November.
You know what's been the hardest thing this week? Studying for my Series 65 without falling asleep. It's hard. Just to get through the videos, it's been hard.
I'm sorry, but Scorpio season is over, so you might be up, my G.
We don't care nothing about Scorpio season. Except
I'm
month.
just saying.
Dan, don't make me remove you from the
Why would you want to do that?
don't make me remove you from the channel,
Why
from the
would you
stream.
want to do that to me?
Because you came back with something negative. When
No, I'm just saying Scorpio
Scorpio
season is
season.
over.
We didn't ask you. The congregation didn't ask.
Well, I'm helpful.
The congregation didn't ask. Don't be helpful.
My bad. Nobody asked me.
Nobody. Good
Nobody.
Kermit or bad Kermit did not ask you.
Petty.
If you was gonna be petty, you should have been petty the last show. Don't come here being petty.
No, 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 no. No, I leave that up to the petty T. You even got a banner. Did you see your banner?
It just said petty time. It didn't say petty
No,
tea.
it said petty tea time, as in sip the tea.
To be an advisor, yes. It's actually three certs I need to get. I told you I may make a shift from tech. I don't know. Maybe I'll become an
I
asset
know I
man.
got my O'Reilly login to this morning. And I was looking at my stuff for my class.
I may become a fund manager on a different fund. There have been people that went out that just studied and got outside. There's a couple of people. It's not necessarily a cohort with us. I mean, it depends, right? Some people start studying it and then they'll take a break and be like, "Psh, I'm going over here to do GCP or Azure or Amazon," and then they come back and they were like, "Well, I kind of need this Linux stuff." So it depends. And some people don't get it at all and they just keep going. It depends. But some people have used that.
But I would suggest going to the Slack channel and joining the RHCSA study group and have a chat.
You know, they was looking for the voucher, and the voucher was in that IBM course, but I don't
Oh,
think.
the voucher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't think it was gonna be free always.
It caught on to us. We was ripping them up.
Hey, we just spreading the resources. That's why they were out there.
It's $5 grand for that class. For one class. This particular conversation we're gonna have it's gonna be very technical today.
Is it?
Um, yeah, it's gonna be real technical. We're gonna do some reviews of some conference talks. And we're gonna get into some technical talk. It's easier for me to do it this way versus me telling you about it. Right? You should, if you know how to do everything. In fact, it's funny. I was just going over one of the issues I was having a problem with the other day was I created some partitions. Indeed, you can share my screen. Um, I had created some partitions here in the class. Let me blow it up some here. Let me take this back down, and I'll blow this up. Here you go. So it looks better on there. And if I sudo the root on here, oops, supposed to be B, not V. Yeah. Oh, I made these. All these partitions are made via GCP persistent storage, and I think these two are uh, with LVM, but we could test and see where LVM lies at. That's no big deal. But I was trying to figure out why I couldn't read and write to these particular partitions. So we're gonna do a PVS because I installed LVM, and you see PVS here. I have one, two, three, four physical devices from GCP mounted to this box of sizes 100 gigs, 100 gigs, 600 gigs, and 200 gigs. If we come back over here to the class or the instance, and this is what I do on Wednesdays. So um, I promised everybody that I would solve the issue that we had. If you come here on Wednesday today, if you come here, you'll see this two, this three, this four, this from November the 23rd, this from November the 9th, and you see the partition sizes, right? All right. These are the additional discs that I added. Now, if we come back over here to the disk, to what we have here in the class, you see I did a PBS, and you said if you counted some discs that were there. Like, let's see, let's go here. You counted one, two, three, four, five. You counted 5 discs, but I'm only showing 4 here. The reason why is not all the discs that I added to this instance is in LVM. So this is just showing you the discs that were added to LVM. Remember, you have to use PV create in order to add them to LVM, right? To initially initialize the disk for LVM. So if I do, let me clear my screen, and I'm gonna make it longer. It's just about to fall off the screen. I'm gonna pipe this over to less. You see, I have physical volume here, uh, slash dev SDC. It's in the volume group of TAM Wednesday 2. It has a physical virtual size of 100 gigs. If you see this one here, you see that it's 600 gig. But notice it says 4 MIB is not usable. And I talked about this in the class where if you have um if you want 600 gigs to be utilized for whatever partition, you need to probably go up to 650 gigs or 700 gigs in order to get that actual 600 that you want people to use, because there's a certain percentage of space that's used from LVM and a percentage that is used from XFS when you make the file system, right? There's a percentage that's used, right? You can also hear they also have the physical virtual UUID here, right? And if we keep going, you'll see SDE and SDB. All right. So now if I go back and I do VG display, see I have a volume group Tan Wednesday 2 and Tan Wednesday. From the only two volume groups that I have. If I just do VGS, you'll see that. I just wanted to spread it out so you can see that stuff. Right? And if I do PBS, I mean PVS, not LVS. Sorry, and wasn't on the right thing. You see the physical volumes. LVS are the logical volumes. Logical volume 0, logical volume 1, logical volume 2. For the past 3 weeks, we've been going over storage. First one was LVM. The next one was using LV extend and VG extend. And then the last one was just regular physical creation of storage, using FDIS or parted, if depending on what you're comfortable with, or GPT if you wanted to, right? All right. So one of the things if we go here, FS tab, let me make this readable for you. There you go. All right. A little bit longer. There we go. That's fine. But anyway, you see here, for your Red Hat exam, everything is going to have to be connected via your UUID. And your UUID is usually after you make the file system. That's the one that you want to add. After you use make.xfs, this is when that's the UUID that you want to use. So how do you get that UUID? After you make your file system, you can do BLKID, and you can see I have a number of UUIDs here, but you want the ones with SDA1, SFD1, SDA2. These are your UUIDs that you want, right? All right, so let's get back into our file. And we had mounted my logical 2, my logical 3, new disk, and you can see here root uh is mounted XFS, but root isn't in by default. Most of your stuff um inside of your cloud setups uh are just regular mounts. They're not LVM mounts. All right. So let's quit out of this. All right. So let me go back and do LVS. So my logical and my logical 2. And if I do a DF minus H, I have my logical 3 and my logical 2 are all in LVM, but my logical 3 is not in LVM. And we also have new disk, well, we look right here, new disk LVO2 and LVO3. So these right here are all in LVM, but my logical 3 isn't. So let's do this. I have made a user earlier today, so I'm gonna sudo. I mean not sudo. I'm gonna su dash my test dash user, right? Who am I? I am my test dash user. I'm doing ID dash A, and it's telling me I'm this user. I got this UID. I got this GID, and it tells me the groups that I'm in. Right? Tells me the groups that I'm in. Why is that important? Because if I did a ls minus l on slash, we see my logical two is owned by Tamika and the group writers, right? And you see my logical three is owned by root and root. So if I try to touch a file under my logical three, let's call it test.txt. You think I should get permission? You think I'll be able to do that? Or should I get permission to not? I tell you what I'm gonna get. You just look at one, my logical three is owned by root and root. And I did a ID dash A and I'm not in the root group. So I should get permission denied. But for my logical three, my logical two, not three, I should be able to write, right? The permissions here. What I found out, what I noticed was, let me go back and do, um, let me go back and do my regular user, ID dash A. Let's go back and exit, and let's go back and exit. And let's touch test dash two dot text to my logical. Let's go with two again. And I'm a different user. ID dash A. Make a read right there. Right. You see that. And you see all the groups I'm a part of. Right. If I do that on three, I can't do it. But if I add pseudo to it, I can. So the problem is solved. There was the issue with the group not being able to write, the not being a part of the group didn't allow me to write. And I had to exit out and come back in. So this is what we covered on Wednesday. This is stuff that we go over, right? This is stuff we go over. Like I said, we went over here. We can hit edit. And today, like I said, it's gonna be real technical. This is not the only thing we're doing that's technical. We're gonna do some reviews of some conference talks and so forth. So let's add a disk. We're gonna call this November 26th. That's fine. Let's bump up. Let's take the size down to 30 gigs. Let's save it. And then let's save. And let's clear my screen. And if I do um, LSBLK, you'll see that 30 gigs has been added here. But it don't have no partition. We'll do LV, we'll do PBS. Oops, I need to be root when I run these things. So let me just go ahead and get the root. Let me clear. LSBLK, LSBLK. There you go. SDG 30 gigs. Automatically picked it up. We'll clear the screen. Now we need to do PBS. And you can see SDB, SDC, SDE. Remember when I did LBLK, LSBLK, sorry. It's SDG. That's not in our group. So we wake it up. PV create slash dev SD, was it F or G? I forget. F. All right. LSBLK. Oh, SDG. Sorry. I remember. There you go. Successfully created. So clear. Now when I do PBS, you see I got SDG. But notice it's not a part of a group. It's not part of a volume group. So now when I do VG create slash dev, well, the name, and you can do dash dash help. Let me do that for you. If you come up here after I did dash dash help, it says VG create VG name PV. I'm gonna put it in a new group. I could add it to this volume group, but we'll wait. So now I'm gonna do VG create Tam set and then the device slash dev SDF. SDF or it's SDG. I always get it confused. SCG. All right. So now when we do PVS again, you see Tam sat took on the volume group took on this particular volume or that particular disk. So now we have a volume group. If we do VGS, we now have TAM SAT, we have TAM Wednesday and TAM Wednesday 2. And TAM SAT has a physical device of 30 gigs. Now I need to create a logical volume. So now in order to create the logical volume, it's LV create. And let's do dash dash help. Scroll up. It says you can do LV create with with the type. You could do dash L for the size. And then you do the physical volume and then the volume group, right? So I'm gonna clear that, but I want to go in here and do a man on LV create, right? So if we come down here in LV create, PG create, VG create, all of these, you'll see some examples in here. I'm scrolling really fast because I want to get to the examples, which I should just do a double G and just go up. So here is the examples in here, right? They have examples. So if you're on the exam or you're not sure how to do something, you could just use the examples in the man pages. The man pages are available to you, right? So we're gonna do a clear. We're gonna do history because I've already done this. Grep LV create. So here I'm only gonna grab 5 gigs. So we're gonna do LV create dash L capital L, and we're gonna say 5G, and then I need to name my new logical volume. So we're gonna say my set logical, and then the volume group that we want to add to, which was TAM set, right? So here I'm doing LV create. I'm saying create a logical volume of 5 gigs, name the logical volume my sat logical, and then add it to this volume group, right? So now the logical volume has been created. So now when I do a LVS, I get my sat logical of 5 gigs that has been created inside of the volume group from the volume group TAM set. There's one more step. I need to make a partition. So now I do make file system XFS. If I do double tab, you'll see I got other file systems I can create with. But XFS is the normal file system that we want to create with that from on RHEL 9. RHEL 7, RHEL 8, and RHEL 9. So we want to do XFS. We're going to do dev, tam, set, and then we're going to do SDF. Or SDG. Oopsie, did I do that right? Oh, let me look at it again. I get it wrong. Every single time. Let's block. SDG. Did I have that right? Yeah. So it must have went by this one. That's fine. There we go. It went by the TAM set and the logical volume. The logical volume is that if I wanted to do a dev, I should have did dev STG. But we're gonna do it on the logical volume, which is fine. So now when I do ls block, you see I have SDG with the volume group temp set and the logical volume of 5 gigs, and it show you it's in LVM. If I do LVS, you see it there. If I do VGS, you see the volume group. If I do PBS, you see the physical volume, the SDG. And you see that it reduced from 30 gigs to 25 gigs. All right. The next thing I need to do is clear my screen, and now I need to get the um, actual UUID. So how do we get the UUID? Does anybody remember that command from class? What do you think it is? What's the command for me to get the UUID? I'm SSH to the box. So let me exit. I'm actually on my laptop, SSH to the box, and I just sudo to root. I'm not on my actual box. Okay. I'm SSH in to the box. So what's the command? Natasha Stevens, I know you know the command. What's the command for me to find out my block ID? How do I find my block ID? Block ID. The block ID. That's what I need. So we want this one here, this UUID. That's what I want. All right, that's my UUID that I want. So I'm gonna highlight that. And now we're gonna put this into use. So we're gonna clear. We're gonna go back to FS tab. I'm gonna yank and paste that one. Um, it should be done making this one. I'll double check. Let's do my set logical. All right, cool. And let's check the block ID one more time. It ends in A87. Let me make sure that's what it is in there. A87. Okay, cool. So by default now, let me go back. I need to make this directory here in that path. So I'm gonna make dir that, and then I'm gonna clear my screen and I'm gonna remount everything. And you can see that my set logical has been mounted successfully. All those have been remounted. If I do a df minus h, you see I got the 5 gigs mounted and so forth. But here's one caveat. Um, it's on our root. So in theory, if I exit back down here and I do this touch right here on my set logical and I get rid of sudo, should not be able to write. I won't be able to write. So what has to happen is I need to own well, we could create a group, we could create users, but we'll just do Tamika dot writers on my set logical. Look at it. It changed ownership. Look, and it made it read only. Right? It made it read only. Let's see. Let's test the waters. Let's see if that's true. The read only file system. Look at that. Look at it. So we need to remount that. I don't know why when you own it, it's making it read only. That's interesting. So mount dash O remount. I think it's RW on slash my set logical. Gotta remount it. when I go to do this, I can do that. All right, cool. Let's exit. I can touch. All right. So, who am I? All right. Let's go over here and let's go to the group and let's add, oops, user. Let's add to the, now if I exit and I do an ID dash A, you can see I'm part of these groups. Should be writers in here. I may have to exit out and come back in. Here we go. So the writers picked up. Boom. Um, I'm doing work. So if I'm doing work and I'm SSHing, I could probably use a different user and do a different user, and that user has root privileges, but it is what it is. But if you want people to write to it, you need to give that directory a different set of permissions. So let me cd up to slash ls minus l. You can see that, um, look, it didn't even take on it. Look, it didn't even take it. Let's see why. Let's sudo the root and do the same thing. Yeah, it didn't take it. So let's try it again. I don't know why it's going read only though. There we go. That looks better. All right. So what I want to do is who am I? Right. What I want to do now is su dash my test dash user, and my test dash user is in the writers group. And in theory, I can do touch write this dot text to my set logical. Look at that. In theory, I'm supposed to be able to do that, right? But I guarantee you, I bet you it's probably went back once I did that your own. I bet you it went back to read only. This is what the problem was on Friday. I mean on Saturday. I mean on Wednesday. So let's log out. Let's sudo back to root. I don't know why the your own command is forcing it to become read only. So weird. Yeah, see, same thing. So let's try this one. Let's exit that user and let's try this user, which is ID dash A. ID dash A, I'm Tamika Reed. All right, so let's try that one with this one. Mention the 9 for that one too. Now let's see the sudo the root. Let's do F minus H. I set logical. Let's see cat slash proc mounts. All right, so what I did was I did a real time capture on slash proc mounts. And then let's go do less. So what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see how I'm looking to see how there is using the defaults. So right here, um, read write. SC label, real time, attribute, I know, log bus, log size, no quota. It's mounted read write, should be letting me write, right? To my set logical. Somebody asked, this is alive? Yeah, it's alive. And now let me get clarification. Are you asking, do we do this live? We do this live every Wednesday. This is what class is like. So let me exit all the way out, exit all the way out, come back in. Still permission denied. If I sudo, I can write. Let's see here. Do ls minus l on slash. Yep, we got Kamika and writers. My set 2. We can go look at writers. What we don't have is, if you notice, we don't have write permissions on the group. I just want to see if you catch that. But when you get to this, go look at the group. I'm a part of the group, but I can't write. So what needs to happen is the user can write, not the group. So you need a chmod 775 on slash my set logical. Yeah. So now we're gonna exit back. We can write to it. And I'll do an ID dash A. I'm Tamika Reed. Now we're gonna su dash my test dash user. And we're gonna do, and then we're gonna just use the up arrow, and we're gonna write this dot text to my set logical. And then we can cdo to my set logical. And then we just do LL. And you can see test 2 is written here. But we also wrote my set logical should have written write this dot text. Oh, I didn't do it right. Y'all supposed to catch that. It's supposed to be this. My set logical. Now when we do that LL, it's there. If I go back to my home directory here, it wrote it directly to my home directory. But if you look at my set logical and then just do an LL, you'll see that the user, my test user, can write here, and Tamika Reed can write here because they're a part of the group, right? And before, the reason why you was getting a permission denied is because the permissions were true. We did ls minus l on slash. Originally, the user it was 755. So that meant that the user, Tamika, could write, but anybody that was in group or other could not write to that directory. Anybody who's in the other group can't write to this directory. This one right here is open to everybody to write. This one is only open to root user to write. The group and the other are not able to write to them, right? So that was primarily the basis of what was happening for us on Wednesday, right? So sudo dash. That's not what I want. Come back. I want to control C. Clear df minus h. I want to exit that. I want to sudo dash. I want to now clear my screen. I want to open up FS tab. And I am going to control V all the way down and comment out all these. Control V, down, shift, insert, pound sign. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a mount dash RAV. and I'm gonna do a df minus h. Now you see my stuff is still mounted, and I did a RAV, but now I need to. What I want to do is unmount everything. I'm gonna unmount everything. Right. So, and then I'm gonna mount my logical. My logical 3. Right. And then if I do a mount RAV again, do a DF, those things are mounted there. Right. But what happens is when I clear my screen, and I CD over the slash and then do an LS, if I CD it on my logical 3, you don't see the files that I wrote. They're on the mount, they're on the drives that are no longer mounted. So there's right now that drive is sitting in Google Cloud and the data is sitting in Google Cloud. It's not on the actual device. So I can go back in and uncomment out everything. RAV. See. All right. So now I'll do an LS. Oh, let me get out. See, that one's back. And my set logical is back, right? So they're all back now. Everything's all back. And mounted back to the proper points and so forth and so on. LVM, they're still in LVM and so forth. It's a whole slew of videos like this, restored and highly favored. It is a meetup that we do every Wednesday that has nothing but these videos. Every Wednesday. In fact, there's probably 5 years worth of this. We got five or 6 years worth of these videos. All right. All right, so let's get to the real meat and potatoes of why we're meeting today. All right, so I pulled this video, and we're just going to review this video. I'm not going to spend too long on it because I got a slew of videos to go through. But I just wanted let me know if the sound works on this. I may have to move it over to something else. Let me play. Just back up. Let me know. Okay, is that volume working? You said no, it's not, D. I couldn't hear you, D. You can come up.
Try again.
All right, so it's the browser.
How they collaborate on developing features.
Let's start over.
As a DevOps professional, sometimes I forget how it is getting into DevOps from the perspective of a beginner. So I wanted to create this video outlining a path I would take if I was starting from zero again. And having the knowledge that I have now, what would be the most efficient path to get there?
So does that sound good? Oh, okay. And yes, in the comments, they were talking about her voice. So you can go to the comments. They were asking about her voice in the comments. So I'm going to keep playing though.
So basically, what are the steps to becoming a DevOps engineer, what you need to learn, and in which order? I already made a video about DevOps roadmap explaining what concepts and tools are part of DevOps. But in this video, I wanted to approach it from a different perspective and show how you can become a DevOps engineer if you were starting from zero. And I wanted to make it more individual for the people with the most common backgrounds of transitioning into DevOps. And based on your replies on LinkedIn, I picked 5 of the most common backgrounds: system administrators, software developers and engineers, test automation engineers, network engineers, and people with zero or very, very little IT knowledge. So if you have one of those backgrounds, this video will be very useful for you, showing your individual path into the DevOps. So let's get started. Now, first, in order to understand how to become a DevOps professional, let's define exactly what skill set you require for that. Software development basics. You need to understand how software developers work and what workflows they use, how they collaborate on developing features, the modern processes like Agile and Scrum, what Git workflow they use, and generally understand what software development lifecycle covers from idea to code all the way to releasing it to the end user.
All right. So what they're talking about right here, if I've spoken on this before, understanding GitOps. There's everybody has a. You can go in here and just look at images, and everybody got GitOps from Kubernetes with Argo, GitLab, GCP, whatever the case may be, CI/CD, blah 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 blah. So you can pick right here to see AWS, Azure DevOps, Argo CD Flatline, Cloud Native, the operating model, VMware, GitLab CI, security, Flux. Like it goes, the list goes on. Be familiar with the baseline of GitOps. When they talk about agile concepts, right? You can go to you can start looking here at the methodology for agile here. Let me see if I can blow that up. Oh, that sucks. Oh, here it is right here. So let's blow that up. One, requirements and definitions and analysis of concepts. Two, planning of sprints. Some people do 1 week sprints, some people do 2 week sprints, some people do Kanban boards. Collaborative design and development. From the beginning of the process, the end user's involvement and feedback is critical. 4, frequent development delivery through sprints. Feedback of testing and appropriate changes are imperative. And 5, review and monitor. Ensure that you're reviewing and monitoring key metrics of success, like KPIs, KIPs. Right here. Again, if you tune in every Wednesday, I'll go over this kind of stuff. Key performance indicator, right? That's what we're talking about here. KPIs. Key performance indicator refer to a set of quantifiable measurements used to gauge a company's overall long-term performance. KPIs specifically help determine a company's strategic, financial, and operational achievements, especially compared to those of other businesses within the sector, right? KPIs, right? KPIs. All right, let's get back to it.
Now, here it's important to mention that you don't need to be a software developer or the one implementing those agile and scrum processes. You need to understand how those things work on a high level, conceptually. The next one is software deployment. Once the feature is developed, it needs to be released to the end users, which means you need an environment where your application will be running and available for the end users. And as a DevOps engineer, you need to know how to provision and prepare these environments and how to maintain them. And for that, you need knowledge of general server administration, like creating virtual machines, mostly with Linux operating system, installing software, doing patches, configure networking on-premise as well as on cloud, and so on. And as part of the more modern infrastructure concepts, you need to...
Now, you notice when she went through this one right here. Let's see if I get it. Oh, that's too far. When she was going through it, Linux, virtualization, networking, on-prem and cloud. I said before, I'll say it again, your greatest value is not just knowing the cloud, it's also knowing on-prem and hardware and networking. When you understand and know those things, what cloud you go into doesn't matter. When you understand fundamentals and concepts and how things route and how DNS works, everything else is just icing on the cake. It's just how they use it. It's what they use it, what they use it with. But understanding that is just a basics. So let's get back
doing
to it.
patches, configure networking on premise as well as on cloud, and so on. And as part of the more modern infrastructure concepts, you need to understand how to work with containers and the most popular container technology, which is Docker. And for projects with tens or hundreds of Docker containers, you need to know how to work with container orchestration platforms.
I would say this: containers is one part of it, right? Docker is another part. If you're working in Kubernetes, Kubernetes moved away from Docker. So understanding container runtime and Podman and how containers work is a different animal. Not everybody's using Docker.
like Kubernetes, which is the most popular one nowadays. And again, all these tools can be used either on premise or on cloud. And if you're working on cloud like AWS, which is the most popular and most used cloud platforms for now, you also need to know AWS specific services and how to manage the whole deployment infrastructure on AWS.
Sasha, you get on-prem experience by going to eBay, buying you 3 servers that are probably a Dell G510 or some old Dell from 5 or 6 years ago. Buy 3 of them, stack them full of hard drives, connect and cable them up, buy you a router and a switch, and build it out. And go build out OpenShift. Uh, go build out um, Go build out OpenShift. Go build out OpenStack. Go build out VMware, and then just start playing around with just different things to build out. And there's plenty of tutorials for on-prem building of OpenShift, OpenStack, VMware. There's also certain jobs like go apply for jobs that work literally in the data center. That's all they do. They work in the data center. You can do that as well too. So just there are jobs out there that require you to work in a data center, like Unisys. Looking at data center jobs, which let me while you're mentioning that, let me pull this over. This is a good segue for that. I meant to bring this over earlier, but we're here now. It's gonna land into my stuff. But anyway, cybersecurity master grads are landing 200K plus pay packages, and I'm getting to these data centers right after this one. As the number of cybersecurity attacks continue to rise, so does the demand for talent. In fact, there are more than 700,000 open cybersecurity positions in the U.S. alone, and the occupation is growing more than twice as fast as the overall rate of the country's economy and data from CyberSeek shows. The positions are tough to fill for a variety of reasons: lack of understanding among corporate leadership about the type of talent that is needed to protect their assets, plus the lack of education and awareness about the threats that exist today. What's preventing cybersecurity professionals from landing these jobs, on the other hand, is adequate training, certificates, and skill sets. While cybersecurity professionals have multiple ways to enter the industry, like taking upskilling courses, doing self study, or even taking the time to learn a new skill on the job, earning a master's degree is a chartered path to land high starting salaries in the field. Graduates from top ranked cybersecurity programs can expect to make 6 figures starting with 100K and 200K. Security has always been well paying, and it really comes down to scarcity, both in the number of professionals and required skills. All right, Skills Soft Vice President of Tech and Development previously told me. Salary outcomes for master's grads from the number one cybersecurity program. Students from top cybersecurity master programs in the nation, ranked by Fortune. Berkeley, reports self-reported 104, while peers who were graduating from the same period reported 200,000, almost twice as much. USC Berkeley has an online cybersecurity program that allows students to not only develop technical expertise in cybersecurity, but also essential skills, right? USC Berkeley grads also go into cybersecurity leadership roles. Graduates with a master's degree in cybersecurity earn an average of 214, not including bonuses, and median salary is 200,000. Right? Some graduates who are now executives, such as CISOs, chief information officers, and chief technology officers, are making 300 and above. How much grads from other top cybersecurity schools make? 112 to 126. You find some down here, CISSP and CISSP and CISM, 150, right? And the top paying IT certifications there. I'm kind of running through this, but that's just one part, right? The other part here that I wanted to bring up, since we were talking about data centers. Columbus among the nation, it's Columbus, Ohio, among the nation's top 10 data center region report shows, right? Columbus area is adding data centers so fast that it has become the one of the top 10 regions in the country. A new report found that data center space has increased 147% over the past 10 years in central Ohio. 1.9 million square feet of space added here between 2012 and 2021 trailed only DC and Dallas over that period, according to the report from 42 Floors, a commercial real estate listing service. The region has 4.6 million square feet of space for data centers, ranking ninth in the nation, ranking ninth among the country's metro areas. DC is number one with 25.5 million square. Dallas is in second with 14 million. Columbus is only behind Chicago, Omaha, Nebraska in data center space in the Midwest, and has added more space than both of these metro areas. You think that people don't work in these data centers? You got it wrong. Somebody has to come here and do this. Somebody has to come in. A professional service has to come in and cable these up. Set up the AC units. Make sure there are no blinking lights. Predictive failure on the actual disk, the storage, and so forth, right? And they go on to talk about tax incentives, but you can see, how much space is being used and so forth for these data centers, right? The other one that I wanted to bring up was this one. This is in India. Um, Amazon commits to 4.4 billion in data center investment in Hyperdad. You're going to see more and more data centers, underwater data centers, and so forth, especially in the region of Africa as well too. So you're going to start seeing more of that, right? Make sure everyone have no questions. Cool. All right. So let's get back to the video. Look like it. Yes.
We can't hear it.
Oh my bad. It's the wrong one. This is the one on what you call it. It's this one that you need right here. I wonder why it went back. Um, Restored and highly favored. You said, how can you get what experience on virtually? What experience are you actually looking for? Are you looking for DevOps experience? Or are you looking for a hands-on experience with bare metal machines? Hands-on experience with bare metal machines, you're gonna have to buy bare metal machines. That's the only way you're gonna get on-prem experience. If you want to get DevOps experience with no without, and you say without buying a whole bunch of hardware. I'm the hardware I'm talking about buying should cost you no more than $500 to $800. I mean, we're talking some old hardware where you can connect something up and keep it pushing. The operating system is free. You're gonna install Linux, and then you're gonna get some cables and plug them in. That's just the hardware. That's just on-prem. If you're just wondering about DevOps experience, then you're gonna have to go online and just start learning DevOps experience. There's a ton of DevOps places out there to go and look. Yep, Steven, you late to the party. Yep, there's a ton of places to go out there and look. Right, you can go out and look on. You can go out to CNCF. You can go to AWS. They have a DevOps certification. Azure has a DevOps certification. GCP has a DevOps certification. CNCF has a DevOps certification. Pretty much any of the vendors, Red Hat has a DevOps certification. Pretty much any of the vendors have DevOps certifications, speaking specifically to their products, right? Your AWS is not going to talk about Azure DevOps. They may mention it, but they're not going to go into a deep dive of Azure DevOps, right? So it depends on what you want to learn. If you're trying to get hands-on bare metal experience under your belt, you're gonna have to buy some hardware and install VMware and install whatever. If you don't want to cable it up, there's other companies out there that actually have VMware that you can set up and install. You can go to a data center. I used to use this particular one. It's called Joe's Data Center. Um, and with Joe's Data Center, you download the actual you download the VMware that you want to install. They have a bare metal machine. You pick out your bare metal machine. You tell them you want them all on the same network and whatnot. They put them on the same network or whatnot, and they'll run through and cable everything up. Um, it's $25 a month right here. You can see right here. You only get eight gigs of memory. So if you're doing something, I usually go with something around about 16 gigs of memory. Find something that got two hard drives so you can have redundancy, so you can do mirroring in the hard drives. You can get probably about two or three of those. Install VMware on those two or three. They have publicly facing. You can buy publicly facing IPs. You can then set it up with different users on the interface, and you can get to them and log in. Right. So that's one way. Another one, if you don't want to spend the $25 every month, say you got three machines, that's 75. So let's just call it 100. 100 times 12 is 1,200. If you don't want to do that, you can go back and use. Yeah, laptops don't do it. Laptops is not what we're talking about here. Yeah, laptops is not gonna cut it for you for setting up a small data center. Laptops ain't gonna cut it. If you just want to go learn Linux, you can just go to the RECSA 124 class and 134 class, and they already have the environment for you. So again, it depends on. I'm trying to understand what question you're trying to ask. What are you trying to learn? Are you trying to learn DevOps? Are you trying to learn how to deploy Linux on a bare metal machine? Are you trying to learn Linux? Which one are you trying to? Are you trying to learn cybersecurity? What experience are you trying to get? If you're just trying to get Linux experience, you can go get that from the RECSA class. Is free, and the environment is there. You can do Linux on your ThinkPad, but then you're gonna have you could possibly have a restriction on the operating system and what you can do, depending on which version of that ThinkPad it is. I There may be some limitations there, but again, it depends on what you're trying to do. But you write in chat what you're trying to do. So let's get back to the video.
And connecting all these pieces together, and kind of the heart of the DevOps processes is CI/CD pipelines. How do you connect these two, software development and deployment? In other words, when software is being developed, how do you deploy those developed features? It's not just about deploying it to the deployment environment. We don't just take it and throw it on there. Why? Because humans make mistakes, either because of lack of knowledge in some area or just accidentally. So instead, we add many gatekeepers before the deployment. So the deployed code needs to go through various of these gate checks in order to be allowed on the final environment. And that's what the DevOps CI/CD pipeline is for.
Right. So here's the CI/CD pipeline, right? More than likely this is GitHub or GitLab, GitHub Actions, right? Remember I showed you this before. Let me pull up my diagram from Lucid Charts. All right. We're gonna log in here. Oh, that's awesome. I'll pull it up on the other one. I know this one for a fact has it. See, didn't even have to log in. All right, so let's go back to my Lucid charts here. This one right here. All right, so this is a Lucid chart that I created. Let's make it a little bit bigger. It's a little smaller in the screen right there. That works. All right, so basically you are the user. You check your code into GitLab or GitHub. Once you check your code into GitLab or GitHub, there is a runner. Now, this runner could be native to GitLab itself, or you could create your own runner. So, for all intents purposes, let's say you created your own runner. That runner could live in AWS, it could live on your desktop, it could live in any cloud, it could live on prem, it could live anywhere. Now, once you create that runner, what typically happens is there is a Docker container that gets downloaded to this particular runner, and that runner could be um, an instance like we have set up inside of GCP, and that runner has access to GitLab, and then you can have that runner have access to some other environment, whether it's GCP or AWS or VMware or a laptop or a Nook or whatever. It can have access to multiple things. So what the runner does, it downloads, depending on how you set up your executor, it's going to download a container, or it's going to do something from the shell, or it's going to do Docker. It's called DIND, Docker in Docker. Or you're going to say, hey, I'm just going to use everything that they got going on out on GitLab. So now once you do that, once you get that runner going, which could, depending on how you define the executor, and in this case, we're going to say a container. That container can then reach out to your to other things. And so in that container, you can have a set of tools. And when I say a set of tools, I mean like if I want to use Terraform to build out something in my AWS environment, I can have a Terraform container. If I want to use Ansible, I can have my container can have Ansible in it. I can have this container just be bunched up with a set of tools in order to do what I need to do, in order to communicate out to where I need to communicate to, and configure using Ansible to do what I needed to do. Now, Terraform you would use to build your infrastructure. Ansible, Chef, Puppet, a bash script you can use to configure your infrastructure. Now, with all that being said, you need to test that configuration. So in this video that she has up here, you can see there are a set of tests that she has, right? So you want to test you want to test your container, You want to test to make sure there's no bad code as far as um, yeah, just bad code. So you may test the code itself. You may even also do a Terraform test with Terra test. You can also test your Ansible scripts, right? You can do linting and so forth, right? So there's a number of tests on the code itself that you can run, and a number of tests that you can run on the container, and then a number of tests to make sure that you have the proper access, right? And then again, it probably in this test they may have built a container and pushed this to a registry. Typically, that's usually what happens. And then right here, what we got this right here, we have something in the cloud. Nine times out of ten, is could be Kubernetes, could be something else, right? But what she's trying to show you, in all, is, and this is where it gets tricky for some people. You have a continuous integration pipeline and a continuous delivery or continuous deployment. And the two are very different. So when you're in conversation and you're having talks on, when you're talking to in an interview, you need to specify when they say CI/CD, are they saying continuous delivery or continuous deployment? And the two are very different, right? Two are very different. So let's pull that up right here. Continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. And this is Circle CI's definition of that. All right. What is the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment? The biggest difference is that continuous delivery requires a manual step to deploy, and continuous deployment does not. So, let me see if I can get this up here. Let me get logged in. So, in here, what they're saying with the continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Do do do. That Vault works. And let me change to the dev pipeline. And let's go look at pipelines here. So what they're trying to show you here is this: continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. Say I have a production environment, and I've tested everything. Everything is just fine. It passed all the tests, and we get to this part right here. And I say, hey, when we get to this step right here, we're going to make this manual, because we're going to do a manual push to production. We're not just going to push to production. So inside of my GitLab YAML file, I put manual. And when it gets to that step, it's going to run up to this step, and it's going to say, okay, everything is clear. We have a manual step right here. I'm stopping, and that's where it stops at. And you can set it up to alert you to say, hey, go ahead and do a push to uh, make that manual adjustment by coming in, hitting that manual, and then it will push to production. Why would you do that? Well, you may be in a situation where you all are having a customer that's out there that's still using that particular production environment. You might have pushed out some security updates that are probably going to possibly change something in their production environment, but they're not done using it the way they need to, which should have been testing, should have been got that in staging as well. But then there could be a number of other reasons. It could be like, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do a constant deployment, a continuous deployment. We just want to push out our stuff manually, And then if anything fails, we can revert back, but that should have already been tested. So there's a number of reasons why some people would do that, right? But that's continuous delivery versus continuous deployment. That is the biggest difference. So let's go back over here and let's finish this off.
Testing code, packaging it, and deploying all the way to the end environment to deliver it to the end users. Now, what are those gatekeepers? Well, testing the code quality, testing code logic, testing that it didn't break any previously existing code, checking for any security issues, testing that it performs as it's supposed to, etc. So tools for implementing this whole CI/CD pipelines with all those gatekeepers is a super important skill set. So knowing any CI/CD tools like Jenkins, GitLab CI/CD, GitHub Actions, Circle CI, and so on, and most importantly, how to integrate this tool with all other technologies to test things, deploy the code, and so on, is very important. Now, again, we are humans and we can assume that even with the most cautious measures and a lot of extensive testing, we can't always 100% test every single aspect of the deployment. And some issue may slip through in the production. That's why we have bugs in production. And that's okay as long as we have a plan for handling a bug or issue when it appears in production. So again, a part of DevOps skill set is to create a process of handling discovered issues in production instead of having a panic mode. So what does that skill set include? Well, it's a thing called monitoring and observability.
All right, so monitoring and observability. All right, so your platforms like your GitLab and GitHub are pretty robust, where you can get some sense of monitoring. Not a lot. It's not a lot, but you can get some sense. But your cloud platforms themselves have the ability to monitor things, so you can get monitoring now. But you may want to use something else like a data dog, like a Nagios, like a sysdig, for monitoring and security, right? You may want to use stuff that is just native to the particular cloud that you're in, right? So it really depends on the company and what you're looking at. Then when we start getting into observability, we could use something like Gremlin or Chaos Monkey, right? We could use Honeycomb if we wanted to. There's several observability tools that are out there, and now we're starting to get into the realm of SRE as well too. So again, you can move from DevOps to SRE with a coding background. Heavy emphasis on coding and monitoring. I would give that. But also with the DevOps engineer is you're also security focused as well too, right? So you have that security mindset. You have a focus of DevOps in terms of automation. You also have a focus on monitoring and observability. So when I say as a DevOps engineer, you have the ability to go into multiple lanes, and when I say multiple lanes, you can go do DevOps in healthcare, you can go do DevOps in at Mercedes Benz, at BMW, you can go do DevOps at Coca-Cola, you could do DevOps at Delta, you could do DevOps at Home Depot. You could be in any industry you want to be in. It's the same way with security. With a technical background, you could be in any industry you want to be in. Same way with observability, you can be in SRE. You can be in any industry you want to be in, right? Like I said before, data, automation, and security run the world. And you can be in any three of those lanes. You can be in all three of those lanes. You can be in one of those lanes. You can be in two of those lanes. You can be in any of those lanes at any point in time in your workday, as well. So let's get back to it.
Last stage of CD or continuous deployment, after deploying the code changes, we don't just say, hey, we're done, that's deployed, so now let's move on to the next task. Instead, we observe and monitor closely what happens. If some user encounters an error, if something crashes, or doesn't work. So we know we need to proactively fix that. So maybe for a couple of hours or within the next days of deployment, we're actively looking and observing whether some kind of issue appears in production. And finally, the last missing piece of really conquering DevOps is automating all this. So basically, you automate most of your own work and work of other engineers. Automating, especially in areas where the same task needs to be repeated. Let me give you some examples. For every new code released, you always need to test your application. You always need to check for security. You always need to package and deploy application changes. So these tasks should happen automatically. So you make sure to execute automated tests that developers or test engineers write. You have automated security checks, quality checks, and you have scripts or automation code that deploys that code to the end environment. So the CI/CD pipeline.
And I want to back that up just a little bit there, because the automated tests, um, in some places, shouldn't come from you, the DevOps engineer. It should come from the customer, or in this case, internal customer. They should have a set of automated tests, not you writing the test, right? The automated security tests should be in your pipeline for test on code, or test on the final deployment, or test on the on not the application, but it could be the application, right? It could be an application. We're talking automated. Like if I got to click into a box, do this, do that, I should be able to. I should have my particular tool that's going to do that for me, and set those tests up for me. Automatically build and package the app, again, building the container, building the application, packaging it up in a container, throwing it into a registry, having something like JFrog scan it, or Falco, or Argo CD, or whatever the case may be, whatever you decide to use for your pipeline and security pipeline. Because again, GitLab has their own security pipeline written into it, where you can go do the scanning, and then automatically deploying the application onto whatever that is, whether it's a Kubernetes cluster or OpenShift cluster, or you're using Rancher, or you're using K3s. Are you deploying this application onto a VMware environment? Are you deploying this onto a bare metal machine that sits out there? It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what the end is, but you can set up a CI/CD pipeline for all those things. All right, let's go back
to the end environment. So the CI/CD pipeline deploys the application. So you don't deploy the application locally from your own machine, but rather CI/CD pipeline deploys it automatically. Another one is monitoring. Obviously, you don't want to be sitting in front of a computer and observing and waiting to see if something breaks in the application. Instead, you want to deploy tools that monitor the application and notify you if something's off or if something happens. So monitoring and observability tools go under your DevOps tool belt as well. But in DevOps, we don't stop there with automation. We also automate things that don't repeat on every code change deployment, but still prove to be incredibly efficient. So for example, provisioning infrastructure or setting up a Kubernetes cluster is not something you do very often, but we still automate it in DevOps. Why? Because we want to be able to easily replicate our deployment environments if they get corrupted, or if we need multiple staging environments like dev, test, and production. And generally, having everything in code.
So when she's talking about that, we're talking about, again, going over here to Terraform. You can use Ansible to deploy. You can use Python with Boto 3 to do your deployment. You can use Cloud Formations if you want to, only for AWS. Cloud Formations does not work in other environments, right? So let me get logged in to Terraform Cloud. Mm, 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 mm. And I'm logging in. 1 second. Oh, maybe it's this one. I always forget my password. There we go. All right. All right. So workspaces, right? So the way Terraform Cloud works is this way. I create a workspace, right? A new workspace. And I choose which VCS I want to connect to, version control service, or version, you can say version content, but basically which repository, which GitLab or GitHub Travis CI that I want to connect to, right? And then inside of that, I pick a repository that I want to connect to. Now, you may not want to connect to a version control. You can use the CLI, where you can run commands locally in Terraform. So basically, I have a set of Terraform files on my local laptop. I then connect up with the CLI from. I then connect up with Hashi's Terraform Cloud. Why? Because the state of my actual deployment will be held by Terraform, and then I can then not have to worry about my state locally if I didn't want to, or I can have my state located somewhere else in GCP, or actually GitLab has a document out there where you can hold your state inside of GitLab, um, or you can hold your state inside of some other S3 bucket or something like that, whatever you choose to, however you ever choose. And then once I get connected up with that, and let's go over here to these workspaces. You can see I played with this years ago. So here is a workspace that I have, where I have a GitLab runner set up, right? And it's connected to a particular repository. So here I can look at the number of runs I've had with this. I can configure my variables. I don't have any state set up for this, but then I can configure my variables for this particular one. And then if we go into settings, I give it the name, how I want to execute, and if I want to do a manual deployment, or I just wanted to do an auto apply. So what does that mean when I talk about Terraform? When I say that about Terraform, if you go to terraform.io and you look at tutorials right here, you can walk through tutorial with AWS, Azure, Docker, GCP, and so forth. If we hop down here to GCP, they won't talk about what is Terraform, how to install it, and then let's build a GCP example. So if we click on here and go through the cloud shell, here we're setting up GCP. They want you to go through, create a service account, so forth, get your keys, blah, 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 blah. And then say make a directory locally if you need to, and then cd into that directory, and then grab main.tf, and you're going to copy all these things. And here, this is where you're setting up the project for your provider for GCP, your project, the location where you want to go. If you got a credentials file that has your credentials in it right here, you can add that, and so forth, right? And they break down this Terraform block and so forth. But here's the first thing I want to talk about. So once you get everything set up, you need to initialize Terraform. With the initialization of Terraform, basically when you do that, and you have the provider set up, you're actually reaching out to Terraform registry to download the latest and greatest. And you can see that right here. You're gonna initialize your backend, and then you're gonna talk to you're gonna grab the latest registry, or the latest GCP API. You communicate via API of Google HashiCorp's GCP 3.5, right? And that's what you see there. You initialize. Then the next thing after you initialize here, they're saying, hey, make sure your code is up to par. Let's format it, and also let's do a Terraform validate. Next thing they didn't do was you did Terraform initialize, and then you need to do a Terraform plan. What the Terraform plan is going to show you is, and let me go back over here. Let's go back to here. Let's go to the dev, and let's go to my YAML file. So here I do an AWS plan, and then I do an AWS apply. That's the second run. So let's go here and look at the second run on this one here. Here's a plan. So let me scroll up here. All right. This is a horrible way to look at it, but it is what it is. All right. So because of the read writes, let me go back because it has the control characters here. So I initialized, and then I do a plan. And basically the plan is like, hey, I'm talking to AWS. Once I talk to AWS, I'm now going to say, I need to create these things. And notice that they give you the signal for create. So if I'm creating, it's a plus, meaning I'm going to create. It ain't there. I looked at the state of the infrastructure and this ain't there. So I'm going to create, right? So now we're going to go out here and create. And it's telling you the AMI that it's going to use. It's going to find out the ARN after the apply. It's going to find out what the associate IP address, the public IP address is after apply, the CPU core, everything. I gave it the instance type of 2, T2 small, but it's going to find out all this private, then all this stuff is going to find out afterwards, right? And notice that I write the code of what I want the security groups to have open, what network I want, the VPC I want it to deploy in, and so forth. I could create code to deploy that VPC, but then here we are, starting from scratch. So it's probably easier for you just to create just the code, just to deploy and let it naturally create the VPC. But you can specify a VPC as well too. Right? The metadata, the network interface, the root block, the volume size, and then this was for me when I was doing Vault deployments, because you had to create your own Vault cluster in the redundancy mode, your own console cluster in redundancy mode. So this is where that came from, right? So this is all a plan. This is what a plan looks like. Now, after you do a plan, you do an apply. So here's what an apply looks like. So now that apply is going to take that plan and it's going to apply it. Now we see some information. We got an ARN, because this is after I ran this apply. So here is the apply. We're creating the vault lead, the worker nodes, and so forth. I'm grabbing some data out here. I'm getting the public IPs. I do a Terraform show because I want you to show me everything. So now I get the AMI, the ARN, the location, the CPU, the ID. If it's what state it is in, is it running or not running? The PIM key that I'm using, the private DNS, the public DNS, the public IP as well. I get all my information, my costs, my tags, the whole nine, right? So I get all that information. So with that being said, when we were over here with the Terraform format and then Terraform validate, the Terraform validate was to make sure that which I'm getting ready to deploy it'll work. And then the Terraform apply, I just walked through that. And then here's another example of the Terraform apply. So in this tutorial, they're going to walk you through the Terraform initialize, plan, create, apply. However, if you're going to do that from your desktop or your CLI on your laptop, you're going to see all that on your laptop. If you're using GitLab, it's going to be in GitLab. If you're in GitHub, it's going to be inside of GitHub, right? So that's where they're at. So it says, Stephen, you say, is there one Or is there one, or would you put more focus on where would it be? Python, Terraform? I'm lost on that question, that first part of the question. I'm in a boot camp at the moment, and I just like to put in more work. Any suggestions? I don't know, what's the boot camp covering. Is this a DevOps cloud? And what are y'all actually doing? Are y'all using GitHub, or are you trying to figure out where you should put more focus? I could tell you the two off the rip. Really, Python is fine, but Terraform and K8, which was where I would put more of my focus. But also depends on where you want to end up. When I say, well, it depends on where you want to end up, meaning like, do you want to end up just doing DevOps for the next 3 to 5 years? I will add security to that. Just like she talked about here, security is gonna be a part of it. It's just a natural thing. The one thing I would do, I'm a Hashy fan, and I'm also a Kubernetes fan, so it's either or. You're good either way, but you're probably gonna use Terraform to deploy Kubernetes clusters, so they kind of go hand in hand. You're not gonna do one without the other, right? So both. Just think of Terraform and K8 as a happy marriage. Like, I need Terraform to do K8s, but you don't necessarily need K8s to understand Terraform, unless you're doing repeated deployments. All right, so let's go back.
Versus some manual scripts that some person on a team executes and no one knows about has many benefits. First of all, encouraging collaboration in a team on infrastructure configuration, documenting changes to infrastructure, transparency of the infrastructure state, and accessibility to that information in a centralized place versus being scattered around on people's local machines in the form of some scripts. This is an infrastructure as code concept as part of the whole movement towards automating all workflows to make them more efficient. And some of the most popular tools in this area are Terraform, Ansible, Puppet, and so on. So what you see here is the complete DevOps skill set and exactly what we teach in our 6-month DevOps bootcamp. So these are the basic fundamental processes and respective tools that are part of DevOps. So any other DevOps tools you may come across, and there are hundreds of them, are simply optimizing or improving different parts of this workflow. So having those DevOps skills is the final goal, and you're starting from zero. But many of you are transitioning to DevOps or starting your DevOps journey having various different backgrounds. So the zero, or that starting point, is different for all of you. And as I mentioned at the beginning, you may be a system administrator or software engineer or QA engineer, etc., or may not have an IT background at all and want to transition into DevOps. So now I want to show you how you can transition to DevOps and basically learn all these tools that I just mentioned, starting from your specific background. Starting as a systems administrator. If you are a systems administrator, you know how to administer servers and other systems. So you already have some skills in setting up infrastructure, configuring and preparing it for deployment. So working with operating systems, installing and running software, security, networking configuration, etc., is already familiar for you. Some of the other tasks you do as systems administrator are things like monitoring systems health, backup and disaster recovery, installing and patching servers, and so on. In smaller projects, you may have to also do database administration, network administration, security administration. All of these are very useful skills if you want to become a DevOps engineer. So you already have a lot of skills you can use in the deployment and operations side of DevOps.
Yep. So most of the sysadmins can rotate easily into DevOps. If you're a sysadmin and you're not doing DevOps, or you want to do DevOps, or you want to do DevOps and security, it should be a natural progression for you. And I'm speaking from experience on that. So that's not me like, oh, Tamika's just talking. No, that's from experience, right? Started out as a sysadmin doing Linux administration, high performance computing, working with clusters, working with building out data centers, building out skiffs. So running running machines for companies as well too, setting up their networks and also deploying stuff. So that comes from experience. That's not like, oh, I'm just talking, just pulling it out. Whoop. No, this is, you can do this, right? So here we are. All right, let's go.
This includes day zero activities such as initial setup of the infrastructure, but also day one tasks like maintaining and operating this infrastructure. Many systems administrators also know scripting, so that will be helpful in automation part of DevOps. So as a systems administrator, you already have a very good foundation to get into DevOps. However, the big part missing here to start in DevOps is learning the software development basics, understanding the Git workflows, how developers work, and so on. Now, very important to
Now, the truth be told, if you are a sysadmin now, you already understand workflows. You already understand how to check in your scripts to a CI/CD pipeline. You're probably already using some type of Kanban board or agile methodology where you're having some type of ticketing system where you're updating that. The only thing that you may not be aware of, that you may not understand, is how does what you're doing affect other teams, and when to know when you need to be a DevOps engineer and when you need to be a cybersecurity engineer and when you need to be a troubleshooter or a troublemaker. Sometimes you may have to be a troublemaker. Sometimes you got to be like, we're not deploying that. We know your code doesn't work. We know this isn't working, so we're not going to deploy that. We need for you to go back and fix this and then go from there. So sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes you get pushback. All right, let's get back to it.
even though some DevOps engineers do know how to program, it's not an essential skill in DevOps because as a DevOps engineer, your main task is not developing and programming the application. It's creating automated processes for delivering the developed software to the end users efficiently with as few bugs and issues as possible. But to be able to deliver the application changes, of course, you need to understand how that application was built, developed, and how it works. Before moving on, I want to give a shout out to CrowdSec, who made this video possible. CrowdSec is a free, open source, and collaborative intrusion. With the console, you have a cockpit to DevOps, which is the software development processes and how these work. But most probably you are missing skills in server management. So you need to start by learning about virtual machines, creating and configuring servers, configuring infrastructure, security, networking, etc. And since most modern applications run on cloud, you need to also learn how to do all these on cloud infrastructure. So that would be your starting point when learning DevOps as a software developer. And once you have that foundation, you can build on that by learning about how containers work on top of the virtual machines and how to run applications in containers and how to run containers on a platform like Kubernetes, etc. And of course, your programming skills will be great help in writing automated scripts.
I actually think software developers should become SRE engineers. I think that's your natural thing, but you're gonna have to understand monitoring applications, understanding Linux, understanding priorities, processes, debugging. Those are things I think is a natural thing. I don't think going from software developer to DevOps is a natural progression. It can happen, but I don't think it's a natural progression. I think there's a lot of I think there's a lot to learn in the short amount of time for someone to get paid. That's just my thought process.
Various parts of the application development and deployment processes. Another common background people have when transitioning into DevOps is a test automation engineer. Now, here you may have a bit more catching up to do and more skills to learn compared to developers or systems administrators, but you can definitely reuse many of your skills in DevOps.
So how many DevOps engineers do we have in the crowd? How many out there are DevOps people? Cybersecurity. How many people have never ever heard of this? No clue what I'm talking about. Put a one in the chat for DevOps. Put a two in the chat for other industries. Put a zero in there for, like, I don't know what you're talking about. This is all new to me. Zero for you don't know. One for DevOps. Two for you have some idea of DevOps, but you're not really sure. Got you. You're learning today. You should walk away with at least some knowledge today. Got you. I'll be monitoring. Let's get back to it.
The test engineer, you most probably know how the software developers are working, like the agile processes, Jira workflows, and so on. And as part of your test automation knowledge, you understand the different testing scopes, like testing on code level, testing the whole application, on a more abstract level, testing how the application integrates with other services, etc. You also understand how to test different aspects of an application. And that knowledge is really helpful for setting up an automated CI/CD pipeline. Because in order to automate the pipeline and streamline delivering your application changes all the way to the production environment, you need extensive automated testing. Because
all right, so I want to stop it right there. Restored, yeah, you learning today. Charlena, okay, adjacent. Natasha, yep. You know what it is, but you're starting from zero. But if you got a sysadmin background, I don't really consider that zero. Two, you know something about it, cool. Learning it, yep. So on this screen right here, where it has deployed to dev, right? The key here is I'm gonna take my code, I'm deploy it to dev. We're gonna make sure it's all working correctly, this, that, and other. But maybe I don't do as much testing as I should have. I'm gonna deploy it to stage, and now we're gonna really do my load testing and my regression testing. And once we let that, maybe sit there, maybe updates and not or whatnot, we may do a manual deployment, or we may just do a continuous deployment to production. Why did I break that down? I broke that down because in some places, what we call high performance teams, and you can go look this up in the Dora report, and let's pull that up real quick. The Dora report. When you go here to the Dora report for DevOps, and I think I have it. Let me look. I may have it already. Yeah, right here. This is from 2021. There's one for 2022 out there. All right, so here we go. Dora report, state of DevOps. I read these every year. And every company should read these. And as a as an engineer, software developer, architect, CTO, whatever the case may be, I think it behooves you to read these. So this one is from Google Cloud, but there's another one from the Dora report. But anyway, they all talk about the state of DevOps, right? The key findings: high performance teams. Let me pull out of here real quick because I don't want to. I should have made it this big. Let me pull out of here real quick. Let me right here announcing the 2022. This came out in September. The State of DevOps report, a deep dive into security. The State of DevOps in 2022. In 2021, more than 22 billion records were exposed because of data breaches, several with huge companies falling victim. Between that and other malicious attacks, security continues to remain top of mind for organizations. With this in mind, Google Cloud's DevOps research and assessment DORA team decided to focus on the 2022 Accelerate DevOps report, which is out today. So let me click on that one. Over the past 8 years, more than 33,000 professionals around the world have taken a part in the accelerate of DevOps, right? And I keep talking about this, the supply chain. We saw this with the SolarWinds hacks, where the SolarWinds hack, we saw people getting into the actual code of SolarWinds, and federal agencies and different agencies deploying that code into their environment, which meant what security vulnerabilities, right? I leave a back door open and so forth. That's what that meant. All right, so today we use supply chain levels to secure artifacts framework as well as the NIST standards, right? So you have NIST standards as well to follow, and you can go look all these things up. I'm not gonna stay on here too long. I just want to give you an idea of where a lot of things come from, why companies choose to move this route, and where and looking at high performing teams in order to do that, right? A low performing team deploys what they say once a month. A high performing team maybe deploy 5, 6, maybe 100 times a day. Like it depends, right? So software delivery performance, right? Here we go, right here. This is what I was talking about. Software deployment frequency low, once a month, and once every 6 months. Medium, once per week and once per month. And high, on demand, multiple deploys per day. Right. Lead time for changes 1 month, 6 months. Medium team between one week and 1 month. Between high performing is between 1 day and 1 week. Time to restore less than a day, right? And it says change failure rate 0 to 15, 40, 40, 60, right? They're just showing you what high performance teams doing. So now you got to ask yourself, when you're talking to people at their company, ask them, are they a low performing team, high performing team, medium performing team? What does that look like, right? Heather G, you asked the difference between, I went over that between about platform versus DevOps. Again, what I see with most platform, they're creating code or creating tools for the platform they're creating, versus the DevOps engineer is not going to be creating tools. Now, with that being said, there is a blur between platform SRE and DevOps. However, the definition typically falls under DevOps is just, I'm building this infrastructure, you're going to deploy on this infrastructure. Platform is, I'm building these tools. I work with the DevOps team with the infrastructure, but we're building these tools that maybe a customer, external customer may use. Far as your SRE, the SRE person could be on the platform team, and they could be on the DevOps team, or they could be on the security team as well. They could be on the network team, depending on how their what their flow is, depending on their background. So it could go either way with that, right? Again, I'm all about being a Swiss Army knife. If you really want to know, so yeah, and check out that article D posted. All right, so let's get back to this video so we can wrap things up. We're almost done.
As you need a human element, you will break the automated pipeline and add a bottleneck. And since you know how to write automated tests in various programming languages, your skills in various testing frameworks is definitely helpful here for scripting and coding some automation parts of DevOps processes. So let's say it won't be completely new to you. The last honorable mention of a background going into DevOps is network engineering. This is probably the farthest from DevOps compared to the other three that I just mentioned, but you still have some skills that you can bring into DevOps as a network engineer. As a network engineer, you know how to configure devices and networking between devices, so you have valuable knowledge in configuring networking for infrastructure on-premise. But as most companies are moving their infrastructure to cloud, many network engineers transition to cloud network engineering. So they do all of that on cloud platforms. And instead of configuring routes and switches and networks on on-premise infrastructure, they configure virtual routes and virtual switches and virtual networks on cloud infrastructure. With networking and virtual networking knowledge, you have an advantage to understand networking in virtual machines and containers which is a big part of how modern applications are running. So it will be easier for you to understand Docker and Kubernetes networking, for example, and these are usually pretty difficult parts to manage and troubleshoot or secure when you're configuring and maintaining the deployment environments with Kubernetes and containers on them. So you can definitely use your knowledge and expertise in this area. Some network engineers even know scripting in Bash or Python, for example, which is another helpful skill when it comes to automation part of DevOps. Now, all of these backgrounds we actually considered when creating our DevOps Bootcamp curriculum. So we added the Linux Basics module where you learn everything about operating systems and Linux, as well as networking, Bash scripting, and so on, everything from scratch. So if you are a software developer or a test automation engineer, this will give you the prerequisite knowledge and foundation for learning things like provisioning deployment servers, configuring servers, and preparing for deployment, etc., as well as how to administer some DevOps tools like Jenkins and Kubernetes cluster, and so on. Obviously, as a system administrator, you would skip that part, but instead you would need to learn Git and how to work with Git workflows to use it for writing infrastructure as code, for example. You also need to learn about build and packaging tools to package the applications written in various languages. So as you see, there are some prerequisites you need to have in DevOps, and various backgrounds bring various of those prerequisites with them. And we included those prerequisites as well for those missing them. But after those prerequisites are fulfilled, the path pretty much looks the same for everybody, because tools like Kubernetes, Terraform, EKS, even Docker are pretty new to many professionals. And there is no one profession that was specifically dedicated to those tools previously. So everyone needs to learn them, no matter what their IT background is. Finally, we also get many questions about starting our DevOps Bootcamp with very little to no IT background, which means
I'm going to tell you to start with Linux, then understand how to install packages in Linux, and then understand Git, and then how to write scripts. You're going to need to understand the basics of virtualization, networking, firewalls with security. Linux covers all of that. So that's why I recommend Linux, because Linux touches on like networking and firewalls and security, and it's a slew of things. It even touches containers, right? So at least you get a basic fundamental to start out with. So when somebody says, hey, we need to use orchestration for our containers, you can say, I know what a container is. You may not know what Kubernetes is. You may not know what Rancher is, but you at least know what a container is. So you're not just starting from nothing. So let's finish this off.
Probably many of you watching this video who are thinking about getting into DevOps without much IT pre-knowledge and want to know what the path is to DevOps. Now, this is a very tricky one because DevOps is not really the entry-level profession in IT. It's not the first thing you learn when you want to get into the IT field. Now, why is that? Because DevOps is about automating processes and software development and deployment that people have done manually for a very long time. This means before you automate processes and tasks that are done manually, you first need to understand what those processes and tasks are in the first place. If you don't understand those, you won't know what you're automating or why you even need DevOps. So if you're completely new to IT and already know you want to eventually become a DevOps engineer, then you should start by understanding the complete software development lifecycle first. And the good news is it's easier than it sounds. You don't need to go and learn software development for months for that. And you definitely don't need to become an expert in managing infrastructure and configuring servers. If you learn the right things, you can actually do it in a relatively short time. Go find some example projects where you create a super simple application and learn how to deploy it to a virtual server. So learning the steps of developing, packaging, maybe even automatically testing and then deploying an example application on a Linux server on a cloud platform will actually be a very good foundational knowledge for building on it to learn DevOps. In this process, you will learn the basics of creating an application. You will learn how to create a virtual machine with a Linux server on some easy to use cloud platform and host your application there. And then repeat the whole process once more, simulating making an update to your application. And this will teach you basic skills for each part of the software development process. But most importantly, it will make you understand the complete workflow of what goes into that. You don't.
Yeah, so I agree and disagree. I agree with doing the virtualization and so forth, but I think you really need to understand how to what is a app, how do you even build the application? Like you're starting out on a Linux box. What is Linux? A lot of people are like, what is Linux? Just first. And then the next thing is how to install it, right? And yep, you could go start out in the cloud with some projects with following some instructions and so forth. I can honestly tell you what this will bite you in the ass is when you're sitting in a open shift class or a open stack class and they're like, hey, I need for you to set up the Yum repositories to do blah 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 blah, and oh, build me an RPM and package set up and deploy this application to do X Y Z, and you're like, what? Say what? What do what now? Create a package? What? How not do that? Oh, why you not do that? Linux 101, basic 101. So this it's an expectation. It ain't everybody. Just be clear, but some people, some places do require that, right? And they will ask you on the interview how to do that. In fact, there are literally jobs out there that's all people have asked. Like, I need someone to package this application up into a set of packages or RPMs. That's all your job is. Build these containers and RPMs, deploy, make sure there's no security. That's all you do. It sounds boring until you get into it and you you realize you're packing up an application and the container you building may be 5 gigs. You building a VM. All right. So just letting you know. All right. Let's finish
any
this
fancy
off.
tools for that. No Jenkins, no fancy programming framework, not even Git. Again, these are to understand the basic concepts. And then you can start learning those DevOps tools like Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, and so on. Because this phase is not about learning the tools, it's about understanding the concepts and the complete workflow. After that, go ahead and watch some tutorials about Agile and Scrum methods and how software development teams collaborate and work in software development projects. And these skills will actually be enough to start our DevOps bootcamp because Linux, Git, and all these basic tools you actually learn in our bootcamp from scratch. But again, you need to understand those workflows first in order to understand why we're using Git, why we need Jenkins, why we're learning Linux and scripting, etc. And because of a lot of requests for our bootcamp from IT beginners, we actually also decided to create a complete bootcamp prerequisites course. So if you're interested in that, you can already sign up to get notified when the course is out. So you can, of course, learn this, as I said, all by yourself, following those steps and put a learning path together by yourself, or you can use our prerequisites course when it's out. So to summarize, there are 4 phases. First one, getting the prerequisites right. So depending on which background and pre-knowledge you have,
I'm gonna give you this one. Like I gave my class, like I did for my class. Let me see. Said the blind man. Hmm. I'll give you this one. Um, so, what do I think your base your base is? Your basic is Linux. Your base is understanding um, automation with Terraform and Ansible. You can substitute Ansible with Chef or Python or whatever you consider your automation tool, but it need to be a configuration management tool, right? Ansible, Chef, Puppet, either or. The next one that you need to consider as your baseline is a cloud, and how do you use those tools to communicate to that cloud provider, and then understanding workflows with Git, and then understanding workflows with Git and GitLab runners and GitHub and GitHub Actions, either or. A lot of people use Jenkins. You can include Jenkins in that, or Travis CI if you wanted to. And then the other piece is understanding the agile methodology. So throw in Kanban or Confluence and Jira. But the way that GitLab is designed to uh, GitLab is designed to be an all-in-one shop. So that need for Jira and Confluence is supposed to go away. That's what the purpose of GitLab is. Use everything on this platform. You need to deploy an application, you need to test something, it's supposed to be an all-in-one type of shop. That's what GitLab is for. GitHub did the same thing too. GitHub did the same thing. So I say all that to say that's your foundation for DevOps. Um, if you want to do SRE, you can do SRE. There's tons of book. SRE Google is the website. So if you type SRE Google, yeah, SRE Google, uh, comes up right here. What is SRE? It's a whole slew. They have a whole section of books on it as well too. Building secure, reliable systems, the site reliability workbook, the site reliability engineering, so forth and so on. Right? They have a slew of books on that. And then you're getting into DevOps, SRE, and then platform engineering, and you want to look at books. So platform ecosystems, architecture, modern day platforms. Some core concepts there. You can go find books there, but they also have platform engineering. The top strategic technology trends for 2023 from Gartner. They go into case by case, and you can download that as well too. Is what's the trends that are coming. Um, Here is DevOps versus platform engineering. The platform engineering report. It's a white paper. You can go into. There's also, if we keep going down here, recommended books. This is from 2021 for SRE and DevOps. I'm pretty sure if you scroll this page, you'll find it. But let me look. That form. So here they have a thread about what platform engineering is, team topologies, adaptation, the four fundamentals, influence of DevOps transformation. Um, just look on YouTube, and then scaling to 200 million users with 3 engineers. What does that look like? Um, and I wanted to bring up one more thing. I think I have it up here. So um I could go on, but it's time for us to eat. But I wanted to share this one here. So um this one. And then we'll get. I'll just click on that video. But anyway, the technology team behind Mercedes Benz has spent the last 7 years building a homegrown 900 Kubernetes cluster to support hundreds of standalone developer teams, giving the company a modern infrastructure platform and scalable and easy to manage use. The automaker started dabbling in Kubernetes for application deployment in 2015 after Google open sourced the container orchestration system, which was called the Borg when it originally started. This is what Kubernetes is, well, was, and now it's just called Kubernetes. And since the Mercedes-Benz Tech Innovation, the fully owned technology-focused subsidiary of StoryMaker has developed the internal expertise to support hundreds of business unit application teams with their own unique technology and needs. Basically, today Mercedes-Benz is operating in a 900 on-premise Kubernetes cluster across four global data centers using OpenStack and running version 1.23. Right, from the horse's mouth itself. Like I say, not everybody is in the cloud, and not everybody is migrating to the cloud. Not everybody's going to stay in the cloud, right? And you're like, what in the world are you talking about? What is this OpenStack? Where are you coming up with that one? There's another tool. Yes, it's another tool, OpenStack. OpenStack and OpenShift are both open source projects. You can go to the Open Infra conference and find out about these. What I wanted to do, we spent a lot of time on the other one, was talk about here is the keynote of 7 years of Mercedes Benz. This is coming out last year for how they build their Kubernetes cluster and how they run. So, what I did was I highlighted here some some speaking engagements that I think from KubeCon that we should review. Um, and let me, not you, we're done with you. That's Ansible. Okay, let me scroll up. Let me scroll back. All right. So this is KubeCon for 2022. That's Europe. Let me go. Yeah, I pulled out for Europe. Yeah, I pulled out for Europe. I don't think 2022 has been uploaded yet. However, that's okay. Here's some things that I just glanced and saw that I thought was good. Number 5, which was threat hunting scale, audio. Hold on. TikTok story. How to manage 1,000 applications on Edge with Argo CD. That's number 5. I think that is a good one to look at. I have not looked at these, so feel free to look at them. I'm just giving you at my first glance what I think are good ones to look at. All right. Number 4, well, yeah, number 4. Number 5 is threat hunting at scale. Let me click on it. Threat hunting at scale, auditing thousands of clusters with Falco. Falco, you're going to find in SysDig. So, Falco, you can use in your CI/CD pipeline to scan containers. So if I'm a user, if I'm a developer and I'm creating an application, I don't want to put known vulnerabilities into the registry. I can use Falco to scan my container for whatever known vulnerabilities, fix my own vulnerabilities, and then deploy it, or push it to a registry, right? So you can do that with Falco. You can also run Falco in your production to go do searches and whatnot. The next one that I said was a good one to look at. It's number 11. Um, here is that the right one? No, that's not it. Right here. Securing your container native supply chain with SLSA, GitHub, and Tecton. If you don't know what these are, go look them up. Right. I'm just giving you just my first glance of scrolling through here. I didn't finish everything. I think a good ones that if you didn't attend the conference, these are things that you want to look at. I'll probably do a review on every last one of these and upload them um, as a as a review. So number 12 is securing Kubernetes application by crafting custom CComp profiles. Those that want to know about Kubernetes and security, this is where it's at. This is what you should be looking at. This is one thing you should be looking at. Right. Number 17, making your apps and infrastructure services failure resistant with DAP-R. I just wanted to know what DAP-R is. You can go take a look at them. It sounds more like a talk or it's like a specific talk. So be careful with that because not everybody's using DAP-R. But just look at what they're talking about. Making apps and infrastructure services failure resistant is more what I was looking at. The next one was number 25 on this list. And we've been hearing about this a lot. gRPC for microservices, service mesh, and observability. And this is coming from some folks at Google. I highly recommend this one. Number 25. The next one is number 31. This one is important. Everybody should look at this. I don't care what your background is. So remember, I just talked about Falco and Falco doing its testing and checking to see if you got vulnerabilities and so forth, right? Well, this one is how to compromise a cluster without tripping the SOC report. So they're bypassing Falco. So how do we bypass Falco, right? That's number 31 on this list. Next one is number 43. Hold on. Oops, let me go back. 43 right here. How Adobe is optimizing resource usage in Kubernetes. So we ain't got to pay for everything, right? So that's something you should watch. Natasha, Sasha, you all should watch that. Including Steven, you should watch that. You say, sorry for my ignorance. I'm aware of newbies completely new to IT who studied SQL plus other day too for 6 months and got jobs, whereas these DevOps seems like you need to know. Yeah, you do. We're not talking about you gonna get a job right away. That's not the goal. See, there's a difference. Getting a job and then having lifelong skills where you can command what you want. Yeah, they might have studied SQL and another data tool, but what's their what's their move, right? Right? You may not care, right? You may be like, I just want to get a job, right? But out of all the tools that I mentioned, Terraform, you can get a job with knowing Terraform and Kubernetes. You can get a job with knowing Kubernetes. You can get a job knowing Kubernetes and Linux. You can get a job knowing Kubernetes and cloud. You can get a job knowing Terraform and cloud. You can get a job just knowing Linux, right? It depends on what your outcome is. If your job is just to say, I studied SQL and I did a data tool and you don't even like it, it's pointless. So it's really on you. Last one is number 47. Making on-prem bare metal Kubernetes network stack telco ready. I tell you all the time that some of these places are not in the cloud. Sometimes these telcos are not in the cloud, they're on-prem. They have their own data centers. They build their own things with OpenShift and OpenStack. They're building their own networks. They're doing things, they're creating applications and modules and things in their own data centers. So again, and you also got to remember that because you are this telco and you put your stuff inside of Amazon, who could be easily competition for you, you wouldn't want to give up your IP like that. It's just that simple, right? So you just got to remember who the players are in the game. So those were my immediate ones. Like I said, there's more. I stopped at 47. There are 246 talks. I stopped at 47. And I gave out of that, I stopped at 47. I gave you the top ones that I think, just based on their title, who's doing it, and some of the speakers I do know are good talks. So that's it. I told you today was going to be a technical day. Pretty technical today.
Pretty technical.
Yeah, pretty technical today. Um,
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about all this information? Are people still confused? People still need to know where to come and get this training? Are people taking an hour every day to study some of these terms they're jotting down and learning here? I need to know. I need to know. What are you guys doing? Because I know I took down a lot of notes. And yes, it's a lot, but one hour at a time. 1 hour at a time.
Stephen, you studying 5 hours? That's about right.
Yeah,
That's about right.
it's a lot. And then you have to map out a study schedule for yourself, and based on where you're going, and the job description, where what is your path? What is your roadmap? And if you don't realize how to roadmap, you got to go to the meetup. You got to look. We put out the roadmaps. You should know where you're going. You should know, because all of this information can definitely be overwhelming. But who can tell me what's the 5 fundamentals? Go ahead and put it in the chat. What are your 5 fundamentals? We're gonna start with Linux. What are your 5 fundamentals?
I see they do have QCon 2022 up. 73,000 pods a day. Lessons from misadventures in a multi-tenant. This is when Amazon Web Services deploying Kubernetes. 73,000 pods a day.
That's a lot of pods. That's a lot of pods.
Yep. How to build distributed systems. Kubernetes to cloud attack vectors. Cloudy with a chance of chaos. Talking about observability here. EPBF. That sounds like Liz Rice. Lessons from scheduling 20 million Windows containers. right? In a month, right? How to build a distributed system, cloudy with a chance of chaos. Again, resize your pods. Here's another Adobe one. Mentor mentee framework, meta ops, metadata operations for end to end, DoorDash's journey, cloud governance with infrastructure as code, probably using open policy agent, Sentinel, those things. Cert manager, enterprise grade Minecraft on Kubernetes. No, our people don't need to just get a job in IT. That's a lie. That's the problem right there. That is, we just had this conversation yesterday. We just had this conversation in Clubhouse about that's the problem. We go get just the job in IT, and we don't ever move. We don't know how to move. We don't know where to move to. That's the problem right there. Nope.
But you know what is funny? I had a different conversation, and I'm going to focus on the our people part of it
Mm,
because it is, I think people create movements in such large chunks. It's like when you say our people just need to do this or that's the problem with our people, like charity starts at home. Like Ford is a family foundation.
mm,
Johnson and Johnson was a family that started. Like you, it takes one person to start something and to put their hands on somebody to teach them something. Like, and I don't want to say it like worry about yourself, but who can you touch to share these ideas and share your skill or share your resources in order for you to get like-minded people on board, or
right.
what can you
But
do for yourself to be a beacon for
but
that?
but
And my
even before.
conversation came in regards to utilities and of course, you know, we're talking about building funds and this, and I get so tired of that our people conversation. Like, what are you doing? You are
But
in
it's
this industry. What are you doing?
but I get what they're trying to say. But what I'm simply saying is this is it's not is it is this is the conversation that we had. It is okay. I'm gonna get let me say it this way. Whenever I talk to people and I say, "Hey, I know Linux or I do DevOps or whatever," the first thing people ask me is, "What is Linux?" And or they'll say Linux is a programming language. That's what they're saying. And what I'm saying is this: when you look across the landscape at what's marketed towards us, and I'm literally talking minorities here, and I'm really talking about black people. The only thing you hear is go code. That is it. Go code. And my favorite one is cybersecurity. I'm majoring in cybersecurity. And I don't know what that means. So what ends up happening is people get into this industry or they attempt to get into the industry and they don't like coding or they don't like cybersecurity and they're like, I don't like tech. So what ends up happening? They say, "Oh, I just became a recruiter or I did marketing." And then when layoffs come,
You be the first one to lay
you
off.
be the
Like,
first one to go. And what
what are you doing to get beyond this particular just the
right.
job?
Heather, you were told the code. And what I'm saying is this, and what I have been saying, and the whole reason why Women in Linux was started. I don't care what recession, inflation, I don't care what hits. Everybody needs infrastructure. It ain't never going nowhere. It's just not. It's just never going anywhere. It's just never going anywhere. But that's the but that no other people are pushing robotics.
It is. My friend's son, he's in a robotics course in, well, he's in the club at his high school and he loves it. Like, I think people, because it's not blasted and highly marketed to people, you think that people aren't doing it. Just do a Google search. There's so many what do you those maker clubs and all these other type of things. That's what I'm saying. What a lot of questions that are even posed in our chat are simple Google searches.
But this is what I'm saying. And this is what I've always been saying. If you want to recession proof your skills, if you want to be employed for 15, 20 years, when I state infrastructure, I mean infrastructure is so vast. It could be building out data centers, it could be building Kubernetes clusters, it could be securing that, it could be cloud security, it could be containers, it could be pods, it could be bare metal machines, it could be how to understand CI/CD pipelines, it could be governance and automation of the governance, it could be all those things. It's so vast, it's so wide. But when I look across the landscape, all I see is people like, yeah, I went to school and got my computer science degree, but I've never touched the cloud. So they come out of school and they're like, well, I'm not making that 200,000, or I'm not making that 150,000, or I'm not making it. And I just showed you the cybersecurity ones where they're getting their masters. But I bet you if you go look at Berkeley, I bet you they've touched some cloud, they touched some Linux, they touched some automation. They went and did they probably got accounts to AWS for free and they're building and they're looking at that. And 9 times out of 10, organizations like CompTIA, Sans.org, ISC Square partner with them, got them ramped up. But we over here, we're like, I went over here to the boot camp and I learned how to code. And we owe them 32,000 or we owe them 45,000, and they over here getting 200,000 plus a sign-on bonus that's probably worth the cost of the boot camp. And we got to work our way from here to there. And what I'm saying is, I want to eliminate that. Listen, I'm trying to start you here. Start here. Don't just try to get a job in IT because you're just trying to get a job in IT. Because what you end up doing is it's gonna take you at least. Here's the rule of thumb: if you lose $10,000 in cash, you usually have to work at least three. I think the number is 3 to 5 years to make up that $10,000. That's really the rule of thumb. So anytime somebody tell you need to take a break, a break in your pay to go backwards to move forward, they lying to you because you don't always make that money back up. So what I'm saying is this: if you're gonna get into tech, understand what your options are. Don't just get into tech because you just trying to get in the door. I get that. Don't do that. Understand what your options are, and most of the time, what's advertised towards you is a boot camp for coding. Because somebody has said coding is the way of the world, and that's all you need to know. And what I'm telling you is there is site reliability engineer, platform engineering, there is cloud security, there is purple team, red team, there is DevOps security. There are all these different things. Even Nana, they got a whole boot camp, a DevOps boot camp. I mean, you know, yeah. I watched I watched half of our boot camp try to get into IT, and it's not simple. You need passion, you need consistency. You need consistency, and you need to understand, if I do this, what are my options? So for example, if I go learn Python, what are my options with Python? Can I go, can I create apps? Can I work in AI? Can I go work on an application? Can I go work in security? understand what your options are. And a lot of times, a lot of people get focused on, like, I just got to get here. And then once I get here, I get there. And what I'm saying to you is stop doing that and do this. Look at the big picture of what your options are. Make a actual diagram on, or uh, a map on how to get there. Talk to people who are in those industries on how to get there, and then start that way. A lot of times when y'all go to these boot camps, those boot camps, they're in there. They say they're in there for you, but they really be in there for that money and trying to get you the way you need to be, need to be need to go back to. That's all I'm saying. That's it. Yep, we're all told the code. I'm reading through the comments. That's it. If you're gonna go down a path, understand the full path. I picked that video out because it actually gave y'all different insights from different professions, but each one of those each one of those tools, somebody needs help with that tool. Terraform and AWS, and understanding how to deploy those services. What is a module in Terraform? How do I secure my cloud? How do I secure my application? How do I continuously upgrade my application? How do I continuously test my application? How do I write a test? How do I write a test in C sharp? How do I write a test in JavaScript? How do I write a test in React? How do I write a test in Rust? How do I write a test in C++? How do I write a test for the actual application? How do I write a test in Ruby? All those things. How do I use Selenium? How do I test a application that has a login, and I want to do these things? How do I test that? What tool am I using to test that? How do I do an audit on this? How do I get the company to be SOC 2 compliant, PCI DSS, um ISO to 27,000? How do I make sure that the data center is secure? How do I make sure that the grid is secure? All these things right here are all jobs. But if you solely focus on this little area right here, and people gonna tell you to specialize, I'm different. I'm gonna tell you to be a Swiss Army knife, because DevOps is a Swiss Army knife. I don't care what nobody say. SRE is a Swiss Army knife. That's not one thing you just know. You know multiple things, and some people know a little something more in depth. Somebody may be really really good at Azure, somebody may be really good at GCP, somebody may be really good at AWS, and somebody just may be good at security and doing containers. But everybody plays their part. But you need to be able on a team to jump into that person's role. If they step out, you should at least understand Azure. You should at least understand AWS. You should at least understand GCP. That's why we all on the team. We could switch out whenever we need to. I could. Oh, you going on vacation? Okay, I'm gonna hop over here and do this. Oh, you going on vacation? Okay, I'm gonna hop over here and do this. If you ever worked on the assembly line at Ford or General Motors, and you were a trainer, and I worked on the assembly line, and let me tell you what happens. The trainer comes by, he may have 40 people on his line. That trainer needs to know everybody's position and how to do it. Why? Because on the forward line, the line never stops. I'm coming up, boom, you going on break, 30 minutes, cool. All right, boom. You putting on carburetors, cool. You putting on fiberglass, you're putting on windshield wipers, you're adding fluid, you're putting on a motor, you're putting on a fan belt. What are you doing over here? Oh, you making sure that everything is done properly. You test it to the end. Oh, you're in the paint department. Oh, okay, cool. You make sure ain't no scratches on the base. All right, you're making sure ain't no scratches on. You making sure that everything gets put down so it ain't leaking when it get to the end of the line. All right, cool. That's what it is. Their trainer was multi-talented and had to know every single position there was. And it gave everybody a break. Guess who would go before that trainer will? That person that knew that one thing. Because we can replace you. Because the trainer can come over and train that new person. You're replaceable. The person that knew everything, I can't replace that person. Or if I do replace them, it's gonna take time. So what I'm telling you is stop knowing one thing, know multiple things. So you can move how you want to move. Guess what? If that trainer decide that he want to be a trainer on another shift, on another, on a at another location, he already has shown the aptitude that he could do it or she could do it. So that trainer now becomes more of an asset. He becomes his he becomes his own worst enemy. If you really, the only competition he got is himself, because now he's just going over here to learn a new something. These other positions, he probably gonna stick with it for probably about 3 or 4 weeks, get them down, boom, boom, boom. He's already managed people. He's already seen what it need to be done. He's already learned the people. He learns quickly, boom, and now he can go do whatever he want to do. Oh, somebody need a break. Oh, you got an emergency. Okay, well I take over right here. And literally, what usually happen is the person in front of you and behind you learns your job as well. That's it.
And please don't try to learn all this stuff and frustrate yourself by yourself. Get with a group of people that are learning. Get with an organization. Join a meetup that are learning, so that you have somebody to bounce your ideas off of, so that you can get a collaborative space, um, and learn how to work on a team.
No, I talked about boot camps in general. I'm saying what gets advertised towards us is boot camps, and those boot camps are really geared towards coding. And what I'm saying is tech is not only coding. That's my point. That's how we got on boot camps. And what I you can replay the video uh for what I combined together. But what I'm simply well my end this is where I'm ending it. Go into tech with the mindset that where you're at is not where you're gonna end at. You have to have okay, you have to have a long-term strategy. When you get in it, you're not in it for 1 year, 2 year. We're talking 10, 15, 20 years. Just like how you keep your stock. The day you get a sign-on bonus, go buy some stock. Let that stock ride out for 10 years. I'm not telling you to stay at one company for 10 years. Don't mistake that's what I'm saying. I'm saying stay in tech for at least 10 years. So let me give you this one. Just imagine if you get into tech and you get a job. Let's say your first job is 150,000. You work it for 2 or 3 years. Your next job may be 200,000, right? Let's say you stay at around 200,000 for the next 4 or 5 years. 200,000 times five, right? Your gross income is 1 million. Let's say you live on a budget of like, let's be fair. Let's be honest with each other. Let's say you live on a budget of 90,000 to 100,000, right? So you put away 500. In 10 years you can do 1 million. Just on just we This is just W2. I ain't talking about you and investing in nothing. I ain't talking about you went and bought a whole bunch of stocks or nothing. Like, I'm just talking strictly W2. In 10 years you can retire. Now let's be a savage on this. Let's say you take that money that you've been making and you had that money work for you. You could potentially 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x that money because it's working for you because you made proper investments, whatever that may look like. Now, imagine if you had a household where you and your wife or you and your significant other or you and your husband are both doing the same thing, and in 10 years one of you decide to exit, or let's say within them 10 years you both decide to exit. So now instead of having that 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, whatever that looks like, 5 million, whatever that looks like, y'all decide to retire in 10 years. And you could possibly do that. And that's what I mean. The 10-year plan, the 20-year plan, the 30-year plan. What does that look like? Are you going to work for 10 years and retire? Are you working for 20 years and retire? Are you working for 30 years and retire? Everybody say they want to retire in 10 to 20 years. The reality sets in. Life happens. You don't make the 20 years. You may do 25. You don't make it in 10, you do 15. But the goal I want you to understand is this: is money to be made in multiple areas of tech. Which one do you feel that you're going to ride this out for 10 years, and you can utilize your skills to hop in and out of different industries of tech, from healthcare to cars to automation to electric devices to working at schools to doing research to inventing to starting a company. You can do all of that, but you got to figure out the plan up front and what that layer can look like versus just doing something and then not really seeing the big picture. Because a lot of people come in and they don't see the big picture, and then they be like, "Oh shit, I could have did that, and I could have saved myself a year or 2 or 3, and been doing that." That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's all I got. Time to eat.
That's it. You're exhausted.
No. We do. We do. But you know where that patience comes from? My patience with people comes from having patience with myself about tech and understanding that um, it is a journey. And so therefore I can be frustrated now, or I can just take the time and be patient and learn it and understand that there are gonna be days where I don't even feel like being bothered with it. And some days I'll be like, I don't feel like doing no CI/CD pipelines. I don't feel like looking at none of that stuff. I don't want to talk to nobody. I don't know. I don't even want nobody to ask me a simple question. And then
I'm not going into that. I'm not going into that. And then there's some days where it's just like you have to realize that everybody is on their own journey. And some people that you think are supposed to get it, they just don't.
yeah, restored and highly favored. It depends. Like some people will tell you like that. Some I think intentional millionaire talks about being specialized. And here's what I'm simply saying. If you're a DevOps engineer, what are you specializing in? Pick one. You could pick Terraform. You could pick GitLab. You could pick GitHub. You could pick containers. You could pick Kubernetes. You could pick security with Kubernetes. You could pick compliance. You could pick any of those things, right? You could literally go out and just pick one thing and be specialized in it. But here's the gag. Here's the gag. You may be specialized in that one thing and nobody never needs you. Or the list of jobs are not there like they used to be. So now you're
Mhm.
back to retooling yourself again, and you can't do it. So that's why I show you tech from a vast landscape so you can see where everything's going. Like we talked about the digital dollar on the first show today, and the infrastructure behind the digital dollar from OpenShift that they were using. I just showed you OpenStack with Mercedes, right? So distributed computing, like I said before, specializing in one thing to me, when I see that statement, is infrastructure. But under infrastructure, it's all these other little things.
Right.
So if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, have you ever worked with a SAN before?" Absolutely, know how to work. I know how storage works. Yes, I know how to create a line. Work with NetApp. Yes, I worked with Commvault for backups. I worked with different types of backups. Worked with tape. Worked with this. Worked with that. But again, I am just a person who believes in knowing how to do multiple things. So when you call me and you're like, "You know anything about OpenShift?" Well, what you want to know about it? You know anything about AWS? What you want to know about it? You know anything about what you want to know about it? You you know anything about containers and deploy? Yeah, what you want to know about it? You ever use Sysdig? Yes. You ever use Work? Yes. You ever did cloud security? Yes. Yes. I'm always yes. Why? Because I just want to be a Swiss Army knife to do what I want to do and when I want to do it. If I don't want to work on that because I don't think it paid me enough, I ain't gonna work on it. That's it. Just be able to call your own shots. Somebody call you and like, "Hey, I want you to work on this project for doing Azure DevOps, and we're gonna pay you. We need you to have 35 skills, but we're only gonna pay you $40 an hour." You're like, "No, call somebody else. I ain't gonna do that." I ain't
I
gonna
got it.
I ain't gonna do that. I ain't got to, right? I don't have to do that. Hey, we're calling you to let you know we need somebody to come work on blah 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 blah, and we're gonna pay you 100 an hour. Can you go up? What's the highest you can go? Oh, we're open. You make the suggestion and we'll go there. Oh, okay. 200. Oh, oh, yeah, I said that. Right. So again, we just want to make sure that y'all call your own shots, not anybody else's. Once again, sorry for the English term. If you're a student, does your evening Linux course, is it a year study? It's whatever you want to make it. I'm gonna give you about at a minimum anywhere from, I personally think Linux takes you learning 6 months at a baseline. A lot of people think it takes you can do it in 3 months. I say you can do it in 3 months if you ain't got nothing else to do. And when I say you
Nothing.
ain't got nothing, and when you ain't got nothing else to do, I,
Nothing.
I mean literally
Nothing.
like
You don't have a job.
you don't
You don't
pee,
have
you
kids.
don't eat, you
You don't
don't
have
go
a
nowhere,
family.
you don't cook for yourself.
No,
You just eating liquid. You just drinking liquids and eating pineapple.
no. Because I literally restarted the course, and to study effectively, I got up to chapter 5, and my 3 month subscription was over. Like 5 chapters.
So I keep up to date with my skill sets by teaching y'all and studying what's out across the landscape. I literally go out and sit down and I look at videos. I look and see what the industry is doing. I read white papers. Um, I I talk to other interviewers. I look at what the companies are doing. I go read TechCrunch. I go read Crunchbase. I look at who's buying who, why, when, what. I read everything. So when I come to you all and I'm telling you how technology is moving and what I'm seeing and where you can get that information from, that's literally what I'm seeing. Now, how you keep your skills up to date, you got to do. Talking is one thing, execution is another. If you ain't executing, it's just a waste of time. Yeah, D got to put up the calendar appointments for December. A binary hustles, I don't know. It's on D. Look.
I knew it. Like these
On
last
D.
little ninja chops is just like, oh, it's on D.
It is.
If y'all was at the meetup on Wednesday, Tamika is taking a course.
What they got to do with binary hustles?
I'm talking about the meetups.
Yeah, but
There'll
what they got to do with
probably no
binary
more.
hustles?
I'm not meetups. I'm talking about the one-on-ones. I'm going to check my
No, I'm not
schedule.
talking about the 101s. I'm talking
I'm
about the
talking about
binary hustles.
one-on-ones.
Yeah, I'm talking about binary hustles. I said that's on D.
Yes, we both do Calendly appointments, but it's the end of the year. And I can confidently say there probably won't be any to the beginning of the
What?
year.
We won't have any?
I'm going to confidently say
Why are
that.
we doing that?
Tamika, what's your schedule looking like?
I'm free on Fridays. Hmm? No, I don't listen to D. I'm free on Fridays. Oh, we gotta move to Wednesday meetup. I got a class.
And I can confidently say that after this last meetup in November, we'll probably not have any meetups in
What?
December.
We ain't gonna have no meetings in December? Mm. I have a meetup. So restored and highly favored. It would behoove you because I don't see your name in our Slack to join the Slack. I post books, free books, trainings, free DevOps classes, free Kubernetes classes, free everything in those classes. I just gave away $3,000 last week for folks. These got to get that out, disseminate that out. So not sure. Can't be too hungry. All right. It's 6. I think my place closes at 8. I'm already dressed and ready to rock. I'm aware what I got on.
I'm not.
Are you getting dressed for the night?
Well, I don't think I'm dressed and ready to rock. I
No.
probably need pants
Um,
or,
some
or
jeans.
something. So I don't think I can wear shorts.
I can sit here and review different stuff, but I'll let everybody go. I won't hold y'all tonight. One day, one day I'm gonna do one day I'm gonna do a 12-hour broadcast. D just has to show me the ones and twos because she's gonna fall off. She gonna be like, I'm finna take a nap. Your throat ain't tired. You ain't ready to go to bed yet. You don't need a break.
Trust me, I know you. You can do it 12 hours.
One day I'm gonna do a 12-hour meetup. Well, I'll do a 12-hour live
On air and water. Till
on
that
air and
stomach,
water.
till that stomach start reaching your back. Like you said, I'm hungry. If I'm hungry, we gonna keep the party going. But if she hungry, it's time to go. If you know the time, I know.
I just order food for you here, and then you just have to get
That
it.
don't have nothing to do with me. I'm talking about you.
No, I'm saying when you hungry, I'll go ahead
We're
and
not
order your
talking about
food.
my hunger. We're talking about your hunger.
Mm. All right, is that the last of the questions, everybody? You say you're nervous about all your books, and yeah, you got to get out of being nervous. Nervous don't make you no money.
No. And it's one of those things where you're always learning. Like, don't think you're supposed to learn everything in tech and then you'll be the guru. Like, new things, new technology are coming out. It's coming out every day. It's in process. It's in development. Like, find your lane, and then that lane that you're in now might not be the lane that you end up with. Learn the fundamentals. If you want to know those fundamentals, go to the Slack. They're in there. We talk about them all the time. There's somebody else again. I know Joan shared them in the chat. Somebody else can share them in the chat about the 5 fundamentals. Learn your fundamentals. That's going to take you really, really far, because it's not just about having things in your memory, but learning how the tools integrate with each other. if they don't integrate, what does that mean? Knowing the concepts of what's going on, knowing, the tools of your particular niche. If it's, if you're infrastructure and you're doing security, if you're doing network, what are the tools that are being used? What are your automation tools? What cloud are you in? How are these clouds different? What cloud do you use? What cloud have you not used? Are you on prem? Are you doing some VM? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing in your spare time? Being able to speak to these things, even when you interview, lets people know what you're doing and your thirst and your hunger for tech, because it's not just a one and done. We stack skills. That's it. We're always building. We're always building. But when you go in there and you don't know how to research, you've never heard of something, you don't know where that is, you went to a boot camp and you're just depending on that boot camp, and you don't have a GitHub account, and you're not part of a study group, or you haven't opened up a Terraform and did a tutorial, or GCP, you don't have account, Amazon, you don't have account, Azure, you don't have an account. Like, all of these things are free. You haven't looked at Jira, Confluence, like all of these tools are free, and that you can take an hour of your time to just play around with it. So when somebody asks you, do you know about it? You can confidently say yes or no, but I don't use it in my day to day, but I know what it is.
Hey, pull this up right quick. Security DevOps software engineer. Said Zoom. About the team. As a security DevOps engineer, you would securely bring planet scale services into production and keep them running with high availability. You would deploy and manage systems to enable end-to-end encrypted meetings for end users, as well as internal platforms to enable secure deployments throughout Zone. Others write the service code, but you get to architect how to deploy it securely with maximum automation, and you will help design how to best keep the lights on. You have experience shipping and running services in cloud environments with a focus in AWS. You have a deep understanding of how cloud services can be secured. You are able to articulate to others how they can better achieve their best practices. You understand cryptography and PKI, especially as it pertains to TLS SSL. You will be responsible for designing and maintaining security infrastructure, and continuously driving the organization towards better standards. Again, the title of this is Security DevOps Software Engineer. Like I said, a lot of titles gonna start running together. Um, Let me tell you what my official title is. I went back too far. Hold on. Let me look it up. Let me tell you, because it's something weird. I think it's the same thing. Mm-mm. Hold on. Tell you what the official name is. Okay, here we go. Mm-mm, mm-mm. I'm looking through my offer. Do 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 do. I don't see it anymore, but I think it's the same thing. I think it is a DevOps software engineer, right? And here we go. About the role, CI/CD pipelines, PKI, hands-on experience with AWS, Terraform, CloudFormation, Kubernetes, HashiCorp Vault, TLS, role-based access control, Linux, Unix system administration, Bash shell scripting, software development, coding experience, preferred qualifications in Azure, GCP, data administration, Prometheus, Grafana, Elk, Kibana, Elasticsearch, right? That's it, Zoom. Look at this job title, 4 jobs in one. They've been doing this. They've been doing this, right? So that's what you're gonna see. You're gonna see people come out with more and more of those job titles, especially the higher up they go. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean you make more money? You should. You better ask for it. You better let them know that's what you're looking for. You better tell them. The only
Let them
person
know the difference.
you're the only person that's hurting is you. I'm just trying to tell you. Let's see. Oh, here it is right here. It is a DevOps principal software engineer. Yeah, that's the title. That's what you're going to see more on the DevOps side. And that's why I say the DevOps and SRE are going to start coming together. Yeah, I'll do one next week. Top Tech Trends. I go grab stuff from Gartner and BlackRock and all of them. You see. Then I'm out. Um, there was one other thing that was on here that I had shared that I thought was interesting. Um, and somebody uh maybe good for this job right here. Um, this is over somebody they're looking for at Splunk is looking for director, chief of staff, CISO, director, chief of staff, CISO. When you say knowledgeable with no experience in most of the technology you listed, uh, I don't see why nobody wouldn't at that position wouldn't be at 100,000 at a minimum. And you can look that up, right? We can go look that up. We can go to Indeed, because most people they consider you with DevOps junior as an intern. That's really what they're considering that. Um, yeah, and this is me based on entry level. Azure DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, DevOps engineer, cloud. They're roughly around 100. Like I said, 95 to 121. This is full stack. I don't know what a DevOps plus full stack is, but whatever. Junior DevOps, 60 an hour. They got contract work. 97 to 123. I know why it's contract work's coming up, because I think I got a filter for contract. Posted, encouraged by remotes. Let's go full time. Yeah, around about 100. And like I said, starting, it'll be around about 100. So it's on you, how you see yourself, where you want to be at. Yeah, even when they say the entry level of 6 years and stuff like that, I still apply. And then when they call me and ask me how many years of experience you have, I'm like 2 years, because you said that you was looking for an entry level. And here's what I got. I still apply. You said entry level. That's where I'm at. Yeah, I wouldn't be applying for entry level at 6 years of experience. I'm still gonna apply. If they call me, they don't. If they call me, they call me. If they don't, they don't. But I'm still applying, because I guarantee you nobody else applied for that job, and that position is sitting open, and they need somebody that could probably come in and train up, or you may be it. Or you may be it, because nobody applied. Could be. This one was 4 days ago. Authorized to work anywhere in the U.S. Entry level DevOps in 9 IT solutions. And if y'all are not interviewing right now because you're waiting till you get a certain set of skills, you're doing it wrong. You need to apply, you need to study, and you need to interview. And you need to write the questions down, so that when you interview and you write the questions down, you can go back and study where you feel like you didn't know enough information. Then go study that information until it becomes secondary nature to you. Like when I ask you like um what is the difference between Terraform plan and apply? What's the difference between Terraform format and Terraform validate? How do I set up a workspace inside of Terraform Cloud? What's the difference between, not what's the difference, but what happens when I do a deployment inside of GitLab? I push my code to GitLab. How do I push my code to GitLab? What is the CI/CD pipeline? What does that stand for? I should be able to. You should be able to. It should be rolling off your. It should be just like your brain should be sparking, like, oh, that's this and that's that. That's this. That's that. You should be giving it. People gonna tell you that's not what they looking for. I'm telling you, that's what they looking for. People gonna say, no, that's not what we're not looking for people to do that. And I'm telling you, that's what they're looking for. When you get on the team and you start working and stuff like that, that's what they're looking for. Yep, build a plane while you flying. Like I said, one of the goals was in an interview, the guy was like, "Do you know Linux well enough that if you parachuted out of a plane and I gave you a terminal and keyboard, you can have these applications deployed by the time it landed? You got 60 seconds. Show me what you can do." I showed up. I showed out. They offered me the job. They just didn't want to pay me. And I took care of that before I got there. But when they got the official like budget that what they could do, they was like, well, I ha ha. Oh shit. Well,
Uh, 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 uh.
well, la All right, I'm done. I beat y'all up enough today, tech wise. You got a lot of information. Study hard. Don't study alone. Get with people. Start studying. If you're not studying, if you don't have a study partner, let me know. I need a study partner.
For
Actually,
mental.
I need a study partner for um a couple of things. I need a study partner for OpenShift, OpenStack, and and Kubernetes. Those three. I need a study partner. So we'll see. All right, y'all be safe. I'm gonna catch y'all on the flip on your website, but I don't see a link